Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT. We're at Stacy King Cobra's Boxing Club. And you're watching True School Sports. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, here on True School Sports, we have built up quite the reputation over the years for being honest, for having integrity, and for telling the truth, whether it was popular or unpopular. And this will be no different. This time will be no different. So this is a direct message to the WBC, to Canelo Alvarez, and to Mauricio Sulaiman in regards to the new Wada Clenbuterol policy, which is going to enable Canelo Alvarez to keep cheating. We're going to address that in this video because the World Anti-Doping Agency has raised the threshold levels for Clenbuterol, which will now allow Canelo to cheat easier than ever. Let's take a look.
My flow, my show brought me the dough that brought me all my fancy things, my crib, my cars, my clothes, my jewels. Look, homie, I done came up and I ain't changing. You should love it way more than you hate it. Oh, you mad? How come that you be happy I made it?
So, Mr. Canelo Alvarez, aka I was born ready. He's going to be the big beneficiary. For those of you who don't know, he's going to be the big beneficiary very soon because the World Anti-Doping Agency, better yet known as WADA, they are the head of all the drug testing in sports, pretty much. Like, they set the rules, they set the precedents. So they supersede and they are above WADA and USADA. And they recently just came out and stated that they're going to be raising the threshold, setting a threshold and raising the threshold for Clenbuterol and the amount of Clenbuterol that a fighter could take. And this is significant because, as many of us know, Canelo Alvarez, he tested positive for Clenbuterol, and this has been something that's helped him out in his career. So with that being said, before we go any further, let's first establish, for those of you who don't know, and please, bear with me, this is going to be a long video. It'll be a fun video, it'll be an informative video, but it'll be a long video, so I would implore everybody watching this to please just stick with me because we're going to we'll unpack a lot here, okay? So, first of all, for those of you who don't know what Clenbuterol is and you just kept hearing about Canelo Alvarez and Clenbuterol and him testing positive for it and you know that he's cheating, to firmly establish what this is, and I'm reading this from from a Ring magazine article by the great Thomas Hauser, great boxing writer. He wrote an article on April 23rd titled "The Canelo Clenbuterol Controversy." I'm going to leave this and all the articles I used for this video in the link in the description. So check it out. Check all the articles down below. But yeah, that's where I'm getting this from if you're wondering. But to establish what Clenbuterol is, here's what it is. So it says right here, it says, I quote, "Clenbuterol is widely used by bodybuilders and athletes. It helps the body increase its metabolism and preserve the conversion of carbs, proteins, and fats into useful energy. It boosts muscle growth and eliminates excess fats caused by the use of certain steroids. Under the World Anti-Doping Agency code, no amount of Clenbuterol is allowed in a competitor's body. The measure is qualitative, not quantitative. Either Clenbuterol is there or it's not." So pretty black and white stuff. And that's, clearly Clenbuterol is something that could benefit a fighter. Like, it's been established there, it helps you gain, muscle. It helps eliminate fat. It helps, speed up your metabolism, which will definitely help you in the sport of boxing. So there are definitely a lot of benefits to Clenbuterol. And this article was written on April 23rd of 2018, which was around the time Canelo Alvarez actually tested positive for Clenbuterol. So this was the rule. The rule where it says right here, under the World Anti-Doping Agency code, no amount of Clenbuterol is allowed in the competitor's body. That was the rule that applied for that time and when Canelo Alvarez tested positive for it. And this is significant, so we're going to have to pay attention. So if you guys haven't heard, and this I really haven't seen too many videos that's being posted on YouTube, so that's why I'm here making the video, because this article was posted about roughly almost 10 days ago by ESPN writer Dan Raphael. And basically right here, the WBC reveals new rules for banned Clenbuterol drug. It says, on Thursday, the WBC announced that it will begin to acknowledging the increased allowable threshold for the drug established earlier this year by the World Anti-Doping Association, meaning that those fighters positive test as conducted by the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association, which is WADA, in conjunction with the WBC's clean boxing program, would no longer have been considered a failed test because the amount found in their system was so small. You see that? So the WBC and the WBC now wants to acknowledge the WADA policy. And the WADA policy, for those of you who don't know, as you can see right here, it became effective June 1st. So June 1st of this year, it was enabled, it was effective, it was put into play by the World Anti-Doping Agency. But now, only in November, is the WBC choosing to acknowledge it. And now fighters who tested positive for Clenbuterol, and most of these fighters are Mexican fighters such as Canelo and Francisco Vargas and Julio Cesar Martinez and Luis Neri. You know, these guys that clearly were cheating. Because honestly, look, I don't care if it was contaminated Mexican meat or not. As an athlete, as a fighter, you're responsible for what goes into your body. You are to be accountable for that. And the WBC has not held Canelo, Luis Neri, Francisco Vargas, Ray Vargas, or Julio Cesar Martinez accountable enough. So now these guys, these fighters that were proclaimed guilty by the boxing world at large are now going to be proclaimed innocent by the WBC, because now the WBC is going to hide behind the WADA protocol. When these guys fail the test, as you guys can see, I'm going to show you right here, the WADA protocol, and this is from the official WADA website right here. The WADA protocol, and you can see this article is written on June 15, 2011. The WADA protocol stated on their official website, where you can still go see this, right here. Number 1, Clenbuterol is a prohibited substance, and there is no threshold under which the substance is not prohibited. So it didn't matter whether you had a small amount or a high amount. It's wrong, and you're cheating. So that was the policy when Canelo tested positive. And I think this is horrible. I think this is probably one of the worst things to happen to boxing, because of the fact that this gives the WBC, which is clearly proven over time, and if you want to ignore this, you can ignore it, but history tells us, time tells us, and lack of integrity tells us that the WBC is clearly in bed with Canelo Alvarez, and they will do everything to placate and cater to him. So, there it is, and I'm not making this up. You guys can read it right there for yourself. That was the WADA protocol. Now, Canelo Alvarez tested positive for Clenbuterol in March of 2018. Let's go to the Thomas Hauser article, because that was a magnificent article he wrote. Great writer he is. He tested positive for this in early 2018, and this actually prohibited the Cinco de Mayo rematch with Gennady Golovkin from happening. He got a slap on the wrist from the Nevada Commission. He was suspended for a couple of months. Then he came back. Okay. Now, Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people ask me in my comment section, BT, where do you rank Canelo pound for pound? And I'm honest with them. I tell them, look, I have a hard time placing Canelo pound for pound anywhere, because there's too many asterisks, too much cheating, and too much dodginess and fishy business going on with his boxing career. From the Clenbuterol to the rehydration clauses to the judges, these are things that continue to come up. And now with WADA finally, because look, going back to WADA's website, like in this 2011 article right here, right? In this 2011 article, WADA, this has been a thing that WADA has been going through for quite some time, to where they were trying to find a threshold level and figure out what's the proper way to go about this whole Clenbuterol thing. But the fact of the matter is, it took them 8 years to get to a conclusion. And within those 8 years, the rules that they had in place were blatantly violated by Canelo Alvarez, who is a money-making machine in the sport of boxing. And it gets glossed over, it gets glanced over, and it gets thrown away by the WBC because of the sanctioning fees he pays, because of the money he's generating. And this has to be called out. So we're going to use our platform here on True School Sports to call it out for what it is. We're going to call a spade a spade. Okay, so going back to that Thomas Hauser article, the Clenbuterol controversy, which is a marvelous article, by the way. He makes a lot of good points about the Nevada Commission, Canelo's reputation, Golovkin's problems at that particular time. But this right here is what I wanted to highlight. The fifth point Thomas Hauser made, saying that Canelo wasn't subject to drug testing of any kind at that present time because, he was suspended. He was suspended, or they made an agreement on April 18th that he would be suspended retroactive to February 17th, meaning that they agreed on the 18th of April, but the suspension only counts beginning from the February 17th. So he had already been 2 months into his suspension because of the agreement. So that's what it is there. Then if you go by the rules from the WBC themselves, paragraph 1.3 of the agreement, or of the Canelo agreement with the WBC, states that he must undergo testing 21 days, 15 days, and 3 days before his next fight in Nevada, right? So if you look at if you were to look at that, right, his next fight in Nevada, right? Now he fought. This was in April. He agreed. He made this agreement in April, right? Correct. So he made this agreement in April, and he wasn't obligated to take any sort of drug testing until September, right? Around September, because he fought Golovkin. Let's see. Let's just have our facts in order here. All right. Canelo Alvarez, 53-1 with 2 draws, 36 KOs. He was suspended in April of 2018, okay? He didn't fight Golovkin until September the 15th of 2018, which means that if he only has to take his test 21 days before his next fight in Nevada, and let's just have our facts in order here, this fight was in Nevada. It was at the T-Mobile Arena, so it was in Nevada. They were fighting there, and he had to adhere to those rules. He wouldn't have had to have taken a test until late August of 2018, meaning that from April 18th to the beginning of August, Canelo Alvarez wasn't under any sort of drug testing. He wasn't under any sort of drug testing. That's what, May, you got May, June, July, August. That's 90 days, about 4 months, 3.5 to 4 months of not drug testing, so you can get whatever you want in your system and cycle it off, because it doesn't take that long to cycle drugs out of your system. So he wasn't subject to any drug testing for pretty much a 4-month period, a 120-day period of no drug testing, which is very, very shady, very shady. So there's that. Also, it is worth noting that at this time that Canelo refused to enroll in the WBC clean boxing program, which provides random PED drug testing by Wada and Margaret Goodman. And that was also confirmed by Margaret Goodman herself, who runs Wada, if you don't know who that is. So again, yeah, like it says in this article, in theory, Canelo could pretty much do whatever he wanted. He could juice to the gills. He could be more juiced than a pack of gushers. Juice to the gills, and he could do whatever he wanted, and he can go undetected before fighting Golovkin. And that's just what it is. And if you look at what was going on around that time, the WBC clean boxing program, which requires all 15 fighters, because that clean boxing program was enabled in 2016, right? And the policy is that all boxers in the top 15 of the WBC rankings have to undergo Wada testing, correct, right? But Canelo wasn't under any Wada testing for a 4-month period before his fight with Golovkin. So with that being said, with him not being under any Wada testing, with him not being enrolled in the clean boxing program, so basically Canelo is violating the WBC's clean boxing program, which it has mandatory drug testing, but he's still able to fight. He's still able to go undetected into the Golovkin fight. And now, with the Clenbuterol, with the WADA finally establishing a Clenbuterol threshold and raising the threshold, this is going to make Canelo, it's going to make it easier for him to cheat. It's going to make it easier for the WBC to hide behind that, because now the WBC can hide behind that and say, well, Canelo was innocent. You can't say he was guilty because WADA established a threshold, which is correct, but that threshold was not in place when he tested positive. And as an athlete, you got to be responsible for these things. So with that being said, I just look at like what's going on with Canelo, and Wada and Vada, the WBC, and it's really just one big shit show. So like, if you're somebody who is pissed off what's going on with Canelo, be prepared for more disappointments in the future, because this is going to make it easier for him to cycle off drugs. This is going to make it easier for him to do whatever he wants. And, you know, this just puts further asterisks next to his name. We're going to highlight that here on True School Sports. Now, like, the WBC, they're known. They've been known for pretty much moving the goalposts. They've done this many times, moving the goalposts, and pretty much, you know, playing favorites, having favoritism within fighters within the sport of boxing. And it's like, you gotta look at Canelo Alvarez, right? Canelo Alvarez, he was able to fight for a WBC title without being in the WBC clean boxing program, despite the fact that he was ranked and didn't have any VADA drug testing. And was afforded a 4-month period of being able to get whatever he wanted in his system. But then you look at, like, I gotta see if I can find it. When you look at, like, and this is a list right here. This article from Boxing News 24. From around that time when Canelo tested positive, and it's funny how they work, because around the same time Canelo tested positive for Clenbuterol, the WBC clean boxing program actually announced, boxers from that they are removing from their rankings because they failed to enroll, right? So if we look at around this time, right, like if we look at middleweight, like Canelo Alvarez, as you can see, he was not removed from the rankings. The only Willie Monroe, Terreno Johnson, and Gabe Rosado were removed from the rankings because they failed to enroll. But then if we look at the heavyweight division, and I want to highlight this, right? Jarrell Miller, who gets so much flack, and he should get a lot of flack, because he tested positive for 3 or 4 different banned substances, HGH 1315, EPO, all kinds of stuff. He tested positive for before his fight Anthony Joshua, but he gets criticized, right? But he did the same thing. He almost did the same thing Canelo did. He took all kinds of banned substances. He was juiced to the fucking gills, and he was removed. But unlike Canelo, he didn't enroll in the clean boxing program, and he was actually removed from the rankings. As to where Canelo, he wasn't removed from the rankings. And unlike Canelo, he got caught. He was ostracized and vilified for it, and was screwed out of getting a life-changing Anthony Joshua payday. But Canelo Alvarez, not only does he get a 4-month period to cycle off anything in his system during his suspension for the Golovkin fight, but then he gets a record-setting deal, $365 million deal from DAZN, and then on top of that, on top of getting record-changing money, life-changing type of money from DAZN, WADA actually institutes a policy that will allow Canelo and fighters like him to cheat with a lot more ease in boxing. Now, I understand, like, with Clenbuterol, this has been an ongoing thing. Like, if you go back and you do your research, this has been an ongoing thing with the World Anti-Doping Agency and figuring out what they're going to do with Clenbuterol. Because, like, real talk, you've had, aside from Canelo Alvarez, like, if we go here to look at this article, aside from Canelo Alvarez, we've had a lot of fighters, a lot of people from different sports. Like, we had the Spanish cyclist Alberto Contador who won the Tour de France, apparently. He won the Tour de France 2010. He was stripped of having Clenbuterol in his system. You had 100 soccer players that tested positive for this in 2011. You had Jamaican sprinters in the 2008 Beijing Olympics test positive. And going back to boxing, another fighter, Lucas Brown, he won a WBA trinket when he beat Ruslan Chagayev, and he was stripped for having Clenbuterol in his system. So, like, I just want to highlight this to boxing fans, like, just to go back to that Dan Raphael article, like, they're going to change. Like, WBC is now acknowledging and adhering to the WADA protocol, I guess, the new WADA protocol, and they're going to go with the WADA threshold. So now, pretty much, this is gonna make things easier for Canelo to cheat, and it's not good for the sport of boxing. And I really just want to highlight this, and hopefully we can now that Canelo and has an established threshold for clenbuterol in the system. Hopefully, he doesn't go above that. But another thing I want to say this. Another thing that I haven't really seen is, even though Dan Rafael is writing about a new threshold with WADA, they haven't actually specified what the threshold is. So that's kind of worrying. That's kind of worrying to me as somebody who covers this sport, because if the threshold isn't established to the public, and I'm gonna have to go look on the WADA website. They might be out there, but if the threshold isn't established to the public in plain numbers, like if I want to know, like, is it going to be 5 grams, 7 grams, 6 picograms, whatever it is, like whatever the threshold is, it has to be established. And the fact that it isn't established, it's very worrying, because if it's not established to the public, then they can move the goalposts as they see fit, the WBC. So I'll be doing some more research on that. But yeah, Canelo Alvarez, Louis Netty, fighters like them that have gotten away with the clenbuterol, in their system. Now it's going to be a lot easier, because now the threshold has been established. It's been, it's been there. So now, yeah, WBC is going to acknowledge the WADA protocol, and that's what it is. But nothing will change in boxing. You know that Canelo Alvarez, not only did he not get punished for cheating, he also got the benefits of being able to juice for the second Golovkin fight, and on top of that, he got record-setting money from DAZN, and it's just an ongoing saga with Canelo. He continues to get advantages, not just from the WBC as a sanctioning body, but he gets an advantage from he gets the benefits from WADA having their own threshold now. He now gets the advantages of, or he's always had the advantages of the judges. I mean, Jesus, this is a guy that got a draw against Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd Mayweather schooled him. So I hope this video has helped some of you guys out there understand what's going on. I know it's a lot of information to digest, so I'll leave the articles for you guys in the system, for you guys in the description, so you guys can read for yourself and come to your own surmise. But yeah, man, just all I'm trying to say is, if you don't take nothing else away from this video, if you thought Canelo was cheating before, wait till you see what happens in the future. It's gonna get bad. It's gonna get bad, and it's gonna get bad really, really quick. So with that being said, I'd love to hear from you guys, because this is something that has to be talked about more in boxing, but I know it's not going to be. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Let me know what you think. Like what do you think about Canelo Alvarez, and just, how does he benefit from WADA now establishing a threshold? Does this allow the WBC to help him maneuver more, because they have been known to be in bed with Canelo and help him and hold his hand and not apply the same standards to him as they do to other fighters? So I want to hear from you guys. Looking forward to seeing the comments. Make sure you guys like this video. I usually don't ask you guys to do this, but share the video too. Like, if you guys are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, share this video. Send it to Mauricio Suleiman. Send it to the WBC, because it's not very good what's going on. So yeah. With that being said, you guys, like I say in every single video, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dingus. So until next time, take care, guys.
Hey guys, Christina Poncher here, and you're watching True School